Hey guys, Arielle here, and in this video today I'm going to be talking all about AI prompt engineering for web development. Now, the best thing about this information and everything that you're going to see in this document, the prompts, the examples, is that it can be applied to anything you're building in these AI code generation tools. So if you're using Windsurf or Lovable or Bolt.new, any of those tools that allow you to create a big, elaborate, detailed prompt up front, this is going to help you. So whether you are creating a WordPress plugin, a SaaS tool, a Chrome extension, anything you're creating in these AI code generation tools, you're gonna want to learn how to break down the entirety of your vision and how to give it to it in a way that is going to keep pulling back from that information. It's not going to have to make up its own thing, go its own way. Everything that you want, everything that you've ironed out, it's going to follow those rules, and then everything that you've left for it to kind of structure out, it will do that. So it knows exactly what you want and where it needs to fill in. And we do this by prompting our way into creating very important documents and then feeding that to it on a continued basis. So a few things that you want to do before you even start trying to give it a prompt is you want to clarify your vision. And this document is part of the No Code AI Idea to MVP masterclass I'm going to be holding, but this particular section I'm giving away completely free. If you are part of the No Code Agent community I've just created, head over there. This is going to be available and you can use it and copy and paste anything you like out of it. Is going to help you drastically. So the first step again is to clarify your vision. This is very important. Map out what you want to build. Think through the different screens, the core features, the flow. You don't have to worry too much about the tech details at this stage because the AI, so ChatGPT or Claude, as you start to give it this information, it's going to help you build these things out. But if you do have an idea, for example, I learned that if I'm making something not too complex, I'm going to always use Vite and React. I get a ton less build errors and everything seems to run smooth. But also when I'm looking for something a bit more advanced and I know I want to try some crazy stuff with SEO, I'll go straight to Next.js. And I think Lovable.dev, I think it only does Vite and React, so that is something worth considering. I'm not sure if they've changed that, but depending on the platform you're building on, if you know the tech stack that you want to use, include these details. If you don't know everything that you tell the AI, it's going to come up with the best tech stack for the features you give it. So that's why it's very important to map everything out, all the things you want, the UI to do and look like. So the animations, the color schemes, all of those things are going to matter, because as you get ChatGPT or Claude to help you build it out, it's going to take all of that into consideration and it's going to suggest the best tech stack for the use case. The next thing is to identify your target audience. A lot of the time when we start to make apps, I say we, I'm talking about myself in this as well. A lot of the time I have an idea for an app and then I would, in past times, just give that to the AI and then not really think about the key demographics, and that's going to have an effect on how the app moves. So if you know you're targeting young people, children, that's going to look a lot different to if you're targeting professionals in a very specific career. So know who you're building it for, your key demographics. If you have to really zero in on your target avatar, the better, the more accurate you are, the more specific you are, the better. So what are their needs? And then what problem are you solving? Are you just building the thing or are you solving a very specific problem? So once you've identified your target audience, again, you're jotting all of this down as you go. So you could be using Notebook LM, you could be using the notes. I use my normal Apple Notes app. That's my trusty best friend, and then I put that into ChatGPT. So make sure you're just documenting your vision, your target audience, and then you're going to continue to build this out. You're going to map it out. You can use Canva. It's got this whiteboard flowchart you can use and manually put your ideas in, make notes. The tool you use doesn't really matter as long as you can save it, either in a PDF or an image. Images are better to give back to ChatGPT, but as long as you can map out your idea and save it. You've also got this tool, My Map AI, which is a free tool. I think it's actually a paid tool, but I got it to make this, which is like a user flow. So you've got the screen flow. I'm going to get to that in a second, but the main thing is that you map it out visually. Even if you're just sketching it out on a piece of paper or your iPad, do not skip the step of mapping out visually the ideation, the flow of what you want it to do. And another thing is to get the look. So again, you don't have to do every single step. I think things like the flow of the app and the mind map, your target audience, all of those things I think are very important. Things like the look, if you don't have an idea of how you want it to look and you're absolutely fine with the AI creating its own visual of the tool, you are going to start to notice, something I've started noticing is many of these tools are starting to get the same look. So even if you think you're doing something special by telling it to jazz up the UI, what you're going to notice 9 times out of 10, it's going to give you the same blue, purple, pink gradient. I had that and I was cool with it, but then I started realizing it was doing that for everything. So if you leave the AI to design everything for you, you're going to start to get the same kind of look for your app. And if you really want to step outside the box and you want to create something unique, you don't want to fall into that trap. First and foremost, I don't recommend copying an entire look, but you can definitely get inspiration for different things. So this is like an admin template. You can get back-end inspiration if you're trying to get it to build out a CMS. You can get all kinds of different template ideas from platforms like Envato. Canva even has some different ideas, but things like this. This is not the typical sort of design that the AI code gens are going to make by default. So go look for different ideas. Don't just let it take the lead. Look through for different ideas. Navigate other sites. How do they move? What are the mechanics? What sort of hover effects do they have on their images? The different color schemes, small little accents like this, underline thing. All of these things are going to make a huge difference. So make notes, take screenshots, and then compile that in your document. Bottom line, you cannot assume the AI will cook up something unique and exquisite on its own. It needs the recipe, and actually it needs a whole lot more. Now, step 2 is the overview. To get the best results out of your AI code gen, you need a detailed, high quality prompt and project overview. So once you've mapped your ideas out, have ChatGPT or Claude create an advanced overview of the following. So here you want to give it all of the information that you've gathered up until now, and then you're going to get it to give you the output with a quick look, a flow, features, scope, and tech stack. And you're going to get something like this. And if you don't, you can always copy this example and tell it that you want it to do something like this. That's what the context window is for, so use it. So my example, it says the app solves the need for a secure, accessible platform where users can track their daily thoughts and emotions while gaining insights into their patterns. It focuses on simplicity, privacy, and personalization, leveraging Supabase for back-end infrastructure and streamlined development. And then it's got all the details about the flow, which it's made based on the flow diagram, the actions that I gave it, explaining to it how I want my users to move through the app. And then it's got the key features. And then it goes on to talk about the scope, must include, Supabase, responsive design. All of these things are not things you have to think about yourself, but when you're telling it and you're giving it the example, it's going to fill this in for you. Same with the tech stack. You've got the front end, you've got the back end. You don't have to know everything, but from what you do know, you can give it. So we know we want to use Supabase. If you don't, then you need to tell it that, or it's going to choose its own back end. So it could even choose a few different tools. On another build, I used Mongo database, and I only used it because the AI had suggested it. This was before I had knowledge on Supabase and got comfortable with Supabase. So if you want it to use something something specific, you want to give it that information up front. Likewise with the hosting, if you want to use Versal, you tell it that. If you wanted to use Netlify, you tell it that, because this is going to determine the file system and the files that they add and the way it does things. So give it the information, give it the example, and it's going to create the exact same type of overview. Once you have your overview, then you need to tell it to produce it in Markdown. And the Markdown documentation is what we're going to give to our AI. So just the same thing, it's just put it in Markdown, made it very clear what it's going to be doing. Then we want to get it to make the roadmap. The roadmap is not the same as the overview. The roadmap plans out what we're going to do in stages. So if you look at this, we've got phase 1, MVP development. The goal is to launch a simple and secure MVP for journaling. And then we've got the key deliverables. So it's going to prioritize creating the front end, and then the back end, so configuring everything for Supabase, and then deployment on Netlify. So the main thing is getting that working basic MVP. Phase 2 is the feature expansion. So this is typically how tools like Lovable and Bolt.new work anyway. If you notice, you give it the prompt and it builds the most basic version. Some of the buttons won't work because it's just making sure it captures the initial idea. And then it's up to you to make sure it goes through and actually builds the things that you want it to the way you told it to build them initially, and that your initial prompt doesn't just get lost in the sea of back and forth, and then it just forgets the whole project and does what it wanted to do anyway. So we've got phase 3 now, the premium features. It has the goal, so phase 3 is in H2, and then it has the goal in bold, and then you've got the key deliverables. So every stage has what we want to achieve and the key deliverables, and it breaks it down for the AI to tackle these. This is also going to make it easy to tell it to make a change log, and then you can keep telling it to refer to the roadmap. So once it's implemented one feature, you can say, great, let's move on to the next feature in the roadmap.md and update the change log. This is something I've been doing for a while now. I don't have to keep repeating myself or trying to say the same thing I said messages back in a different way. I'm just like, refer to the roadmap. Check the roadmap. Has it been done yet? What do we need to do next? You can just talk to it and tell it what to go to. And that's why these MD files are so important. Now, the next thing is the file structure. And we're going to copy everything and give that to Claude or ChatGPT. I think Claude does a good job with this. So I'm going to take the roadmap. Let me try giving it to ChatGPT and see how it does the file structure. If not, I'll take it to Claude. So I'm going to say, create a file structure for this web app following best practices for React. Do you need to take out the things in between this? See what it does. If not, let's see. Okay, it does do the file structure. So I usually do this in Claude, but that's fine. Personal diary app. Also, I forgot to mention, if you have a name for it, absolutely put that name in the initial prompt. Otherwise, it's going to do its own thing. So personal diary app, and AI will give it its own name. So we've got readme.md. It didn't make the other. Okay, let me tell it. Be sure to include a roadmap MD and project overview. Okay, so we'll have the readme, the roadmap, and the project overview included. All right, so I'm just going to copy this because I need this in my document down here. I'm still creating this. So now we don't just have an idea that we want to turn into a web app. We have a complete overview. We've got everything that needs to be considered. We've got the tech stack worked out. We've got the back end. We've got the feature flow. We've got the user flow. Everything planned out. Now, please do not be confused. The AI is not going to take all of this and make your wonderful, perfect app to these specs in one prompt. You're still going to need to iterate. You're still going to need to build the app out. All this does is make it easier to follow the structure, so you're not leaving everything to chance. So now we're going to put this into a prompt, and I will put this into an insert the blanks sort of template here, where you can just copy and paste all the things you've just generated and then give that to the tool. So now we're going to take the markdown documentation, the roadmap documentation, and the file structure, and we're going to give that to Lovable. All right, so we've got the overview, and then be very careful not to press enter at this point because it will send this all over. So we've got that. So we've got the roadmap, we've got the overview. I need the file structure. Again, we still need to add these into the rules so it knows what we're following, and it doesn't deviate from this, but we're still giving it as much information as for upfront as we can and trying our best to make sure it follows that. So file structure. Okay, let's put file structure. Now, something else I like to do, because in this case, I'm not actually going to upload any example documents, but I'm going to tell it, and you're welcome to steal this, I'm going to tell it you are an award-winning designer from the best web design agency in the world. Go you! I'm so amazed by what you have achieved. Can you please build me a site of the same quality you are used to? You're welcome to use Tailwind, but not Shadcn. And nothing against Shadcn, but I'm starting to see a very common look. It's kind of like when AI first came onto the scene and we were okay with the transition words that it would use, and then everything started to sound like AI. So we don't want that. We start to notice patterns with anything we're creating with AI, it's best to start moving away from that as soon as possible. So I'm telling it what I want it to do. I've told it how amazing it is, and these are the instructions. So here are my instructions. And again, I am not expecting it to do that in its entirety, so I don't expect it to put all of the contents of the MD files in, but at least it creates that file for us, so when we open up GitHub we can just copy and paste it in, no issues. But it knows that it's creating it in the correct format for us, so when we paste that in, we're not going to break anything, we're just copying and pasting to overwrite whatever it's added. That's it. I'm out of Bolt credits at the moment, so I can't actually test this in Bolt, but I will test it in Windsurf. So let's send this over now. It's creating index Tailwind. So again, you can see it just does the bare minimum for all of the files just so it can put it together. Mood selector, sample entries. So I'm not actually going to get carried away in trying to build out this digital diary. This is not something I want to build. This is an idea for the video, but I want to show you what to do with these MD files. Another thing you absolutely shouldn't ignore is this knowledge section. Different tools have named it different things, but they all essentially do the same thing. So in Windsurf, I've spoken about it before, it's got Windsurf rules, and this is custom context and instructions for your project, and Lovable is going to use it with every edit. So every time it does something as part of this content aware feature, it's going to look at what you've told it you don't want to do, what you've told it it must do, and every time it makes an edit, it's going to refer to that. So in this case, I'm going to be copying and pasting the MD file in. Now, I don't typically recommend just pasting the overview in here. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not going to break anything. You're welcome to paste it in and also have it in your files, but I like to give it very, very specific things that I know it's going to do on its own. So if I've not already specified which LLM I'm using, for instance, or the storage I'm using, I'll make it very clear that we're only going to be using GPT-4o mini, or a very specific model, and then I will include some more information on that. And I'll try to include things that I know it's going to default to because of when the model cutoff point is. So sometimes you're going to find that you've told it to do something, you think it's implemented it in the way you wanted it to, very, very common with these LLM models, but it doesn't know there's been a new model that's been added to the LLM, and it goes and it defaults back to the one that it knows and loves. So those are things that I'll look for, and I'll look for what it's doing in the code, and then I'll come and I'll add that as a rule. But for now, there's nothing wrong with this. It looks like it's taken the entire MD document, and that still falls into the scope of what this is designed to do. So include external documentation or style guides, set coding style preferences, define project-specific rules or guidelines. So this is still well within the lines of what this is designed to do. So we're going to hit save, and those custom instructions have been saved. So that's that. Now I want to see if it's added all of the contents for the roadmap.md and the overview, although we don't really need to worry too much about the overview because now it's in the knowledge file. But we want to make sure that the roadmap has been added to the repository. So just going to go to edit code and transfer repository. This is going to send it to GitHub. And you can either view on GitHub and edit there or edit in VS Code. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. We are in the project in GitHub. We're looking at the files. Pretty much everything is going to be in this source folder. Has it followed the structure? Let's see. Assets, components, containers, context. I don't think it's made all of those things yet. So that's fine. We've got components, hooks, library and pages. Components, assets. We've got hooks, but they're not in management. So I'm going to take this and give it to the knowledge so we can get it to keep a clean, consistent file structure. Now that it's going to pull from this knowledge that I've got, it's going to follow this file structure. Well, that's the hope. So I can see that it's not yet created the roadmap and the project overview. So I'm going to get it to do that now. Create the project overview.md and roadmap.md above with the information above. So once it's created the roadmap, we need to check that it's actually added the information we want. So back over here. Refresh. We've got the project overviews now been added and the roadmap. So again, don't be scared of GitHub. Overview. I think some things are going to be missing. Front end tech stack's fine. Back end infrastructure is fine. Project structure. So that wasn't initially in there. Does look like it's missed quite a bit. So I'm going to edit this, and again, don't be scared of GitHub, don't be scared. As you can see, everything is Markdown, so when I edit it, I can just replace everything. That's why we do it in Markdown. And save that, commit the changes. And there we go. So now it's got the full project overview. And we're going to do the same with the roadmap. Looks like it's changed it up a bit. It's not marked down. It's got weeks. We don't need it to be putting phases into weeks. We definitely don't need that. It looks like it's added its own stuff. We've got Q1, timelines and things like that. We're going to copy our one and replace it. Again, this is why we use Markdown. No issues. Commit the changes. And then everything that we've done here is going to reflect in Lovable. So don't be scared of GitHub. And I say that because I was once scared of GitHub. Close, and over here, let's refresh the project. All right, so it shows the external commits. It shows that we've updated the project MD and the roadmap.md, and that goes for anything that you want to edit in Lovable. You do have to be a bit careful because you don't want to break the project. You can always clone the repository and edit the other version, but you do have to be careful. I have made edits and then not been able to open it back up in Lovable. And that's pretty much it. I think there are some things I would definitely go deeper into, and I could go deeper into on this matter of prompt engineering specifically, and also doing the same thing but in Windsurf, doing the same thing in Bolt. There are different nuances based on the platform, but generally it's the same thing. Plan your build, plan everything that you want to build, put it together properly, give the AI all the information, make sure it's got the information. So don't just assume because you've given it to it once that it knows what it's doing and it's going to follow that. It will hallucinate the same way it does when you're writing content or you're asking it for factual information or historical accounts, it will hallucinate. It doesn't ever want to look like it doesn't know something. It won't tell you, I've forgotten. It will just go and do its own thing, which is good in a way because it fills in the gaps. We don't want to have to hold its hand with everything, but we also do need to think about what our plans are for our project, how much we want it to deviate from or follow that plan, and make sure we give it the tools to be successful. And you're going to save a ton of tokens doing it this way. So I hope this video has been useful. Drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and join our new no code agents group. The link is in the description. And of course, you'll not only get access to the AI prompt engineering guide that I'm putting together, but you'll get access to a growing community of people just like you who want to learn everything there is to know about this new AI world, AI coding, AI agent world that we're stepping into, the new future that we're stepping into, and really craft our place in this new future.